Hey there, welcome to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast. I'm your host, Amy Van Meel, and I'm here to inspire and teach entrepreneurs and budding entrepreneurs how to create a business without miring in the overwhelm. I'm really excited about today's topic because today I want to talk about doing it all alone. So often a lot of businesses, and if you're a solopreneur, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You launch a business, it's just you, and you're responsible for everything. So when I started Dare to Begin, the whole reason that I began this business was because I wanted to reach out to other solopreneurs and to people who were about to start a business and give them the tools and tricks that they needed to be able to create success and not feel alone. That was a huge factor for me as I was building my business and creating the success that I did finally get, but it was always everything had to be done on my own. Every decision had to be made by myself. And it became kind of a lonely place for me to be. There were some days that I'm just like, I don't know how I can keep going. This is just driving me crazy. I had a fantastic interview this morning with a fellow solopreneur. And we jokingly said that we felt that Kleenex should really sponsor entrepreneurs and solopreneurs because, man, do we ever go through a lot of them when we're building a business. And if you're thinking about it, don't let that scare you away. It can be very rewarding, and it definitely is very freeing to do this kind of work. But man, we go through a lot of Kleenexes in my house here, and I can tell you I use probably 95% of them myself. So I want to talk today about some of the challenges when you're working alone and how you can move forward and not get stuck in those challenges. I want you to continue to make progress and not get sidelined and completely taken out of the game. In the last podcast, I talked about the 3 factors that can be really holding you back and how they just totally take you out of the game of going forward. Your work is too important to let it get sidelined because of whatever the factors are happening in your life. So one of the biggest things that I definitely found when I was working on my own that was a struggle for me and was continually something that just reiterated that aloneness was that I had to find all the solutions to each and every problem on my own. Now, there are some different things you can do around this, but I just want to talk about this for a moment. So when you're finding the solutions, what I mean is you're the one who has to deal with problems that customers are having. You're the one that has to figure out what your marketing strategy is going to be. You're the one that has to figure out what technology you're going to delve into. You're the one that has to figure out, if you're going to hire somebody on, what does that look like and how much do I pay that person and what does that person need to be before they come into our business or as they come into our business. When you're doing it all alone, you're the only solution creator, and that can be overwhelming. I know, I've been there. A really fantastic thing to do if this is something that you're struggling with right now. First of all, reach out to anybody that you know that has 10 minutes that will listen. And I say 10 minutes because, first of all, we all have other things that we're doing, so we don't want to get too stuck on it. But take 10 minutes and reach out to a friend, even if it's by text, and just say, oh my goodness, you have no idea. Right now, I'm really stuck in this, and I just need to get this off my chest. That's a great immediate release to get some of that off and to touch base with someone else. What I would strongly suggest in your business, connect with a mentor. So when I started my business about 4.5 years ago, I was figuring everything out on my own. I had just moved to the city I live in now. I would lived here for about 6 months, and I think I knew about 15 people, and all of those people were my guy's friends. So they were his friends. They were all wonderful people, and I definitely consider them my friends. But if you've ever done that, you know what I mean, where there's a difference between people that are really, soulfully chosen by you and people that you get to have the pleasure of spending time with because you know them through somebody else. So one of my friends, I was very grateful for this, and I cannot remember off the top of my head who it was that introduced me, but they introduced me to another woman that was doing the same business as I was in my city, And they said, Amy, I think you should reach out to her. She's really a fantastic person. So I checked out what she was doing. I was reading her blog and I really loved what she was doing and I loved how she talked about it. I reached out to her by email and I just said, hey, I love what you're doing. I've just started my business. Could I take you for a cup of coffee and ask you a few questions? And she was phenomenal. We went out for coffee, and I think the first time that we went out, I said, I just want an hour of your time, and we spent about an hour and a half together, and she gave me so much. I am so grateful for her. She's really a phenomenal person. Her business is absolutely raging, and I have no doubt as to why. She's phenomenal at what she does. But the wonderful thing was that in that relationship, in that first cup of coffee, I found someone who could mentor me. And when I asked her about that, I was at the beginnings of learning what mentorship was. And I said, I really loved our cup of coffee. Would you be open to mentoring me? And she said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, it can be anything that we suggest or anything that works for us. But my thought is, maybe a call once a month where I can ask you some questions and just sort of go through some things. And she said, absolutely. She's more than happy to give back in that way. As my business progressed, any time that I was really sort of in this situation where I'm like, I have no freaking idea what to do here. Like, this is just, I haven't come up against this. I can't find a solution on my own. I can't see my way around this problem. I feel really stuck. Or sometimes because I was building a business on my own and I was a female, which at times I felt like that put me at a disadvantage. I needed some validation in this is what I think will work, but I need somebody to just validate that for me. So my mentor has been a phenomenal resource in my business. And when I had those moments, I would send her a quick email and say, hey, I hope you're doing really well. I have this going on right now. And I'd be very short and sweet, 1 to 2 sentences. This is what's happening. Would you have 20 or 30 minutes to talk on the phone with me and help me hash this out? And she always said yes. We always made a schedule. Usually it was the next day. Sometimes it takes a couple of days out, depending on what your mentor or the person that you're talking to, what their schedule is like. But every single time she gave me phenomenal information that allowed me to move forward. I am so grateful for her. So when you're stuck in that, solution sort of vacuum where you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know where to get this answer from, reach out to a mentor. You'll find if there isn't one in your city who's willing to talk with you, somebody who's sort of in the same industry as you, then I can pretty much guarantee that there is someone else out there. They may be halfway around the world, who knows? But there is somebody out there that's in your industry that would be willing to talk with you. I say this constantly to myself. There are nearly 8 billion people on the planet. There is more than enough business for all of us. So if you're finding that when you're asking someone, would they be your mentor, and they're really hesitant, just say, you know what, that's cool. If you don't want to, that's all right. I'll go find someone else. Most people really love to give back. We love, as human beings, we love to share our knowledge. That's what podcasting is all about. It's about sharing your knowledge and sharing what we've learned. So feel free to reach out. And if at the first you don't succeed, stick by that old adage, try again. You will find a mentor. Now, another thing about working on your own, depending on your business, so depending on your business structure, you may find that you have very little social interaction. So my business dealt with a lot of one-on-one clients, and that was fantastic, and I loved working with my clients. But in that business, when I'm working with my clients and talking with them, it's from a business standpoint. It is not the same as going out with some friends or hanging out with my guy and just spending some time getting that, we all need some of that social interaction with other people. So if you have a job, if you're working in an office or a situation where you have other team members around you, you're going to naturally get some of that social interaction purely by showing up somewhere where you have a team. Now, when you're the boss, even if you have a team, sometimes it can feel a bit lonely because you're the only person at the top. So my suggestion, if you're feeling like you're not getting that social interaction, make a plan, get out, get seeing some people. whatever you do, you don't want to overwhelm your partner. Now, my guy, I love him so much. He is such a blessing in my life. There has been many a day where I've spent the entire day in my office creating, working, whatever it was that I was doing that day, and he would come through the door and I'd pop out of my office and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you're home. And I would just unload like this tidal wave of information on him about everything that happened that day, because I had not talked to another soul since 8 o'clock in the morning when he left. Now, he is amazing. He will always sit there and listen to me, and depending on how his day went, sometimes he's fixing a drink while he's listening to me, but he's always been really fantastic. The downside is that when I do that, or if that was a regular thing, it didn't give him the space to unwind from his day. So if you're lucky enough to have a partner like that in your life, someone that you can talk to, that's phenomenal. I absolutely suggest definitely talk with them, share with them about your day, but understand that if you're not getting social interaction anywhere else, that you're now dumping it all on one person, and that can be a bit overwhelming for them. So rather than always be thinking, I'm in this alone, I'm in this alone, I'm in this alone, make some plans. Get out, get together with a friend. Whenever it is, whenever it works, just make an hour sometime in your week to get together with somebody, touch base, understand that humanity still exists outside of your walls, and just get out of your head a little bit. I mean, I talk to myself all the time, so there's always a little bit of social interaction happening around my house, but it's not the same as having feedback. When I start talking back to myself, I'm like, oh, Amy, it's time for you to get out and see some people. Now, the last thing I want to touch on doing it all alone is that you have no in-house cheerleaders. And what I mean by that is not that you don't have people who support you, but you don't have somebody who's right there and can feed into that fantastic energy when you have a really big win or even a really small win. You don't have somebody around you right away to boost you, to share that energy with. So if you have a job and you're working with a team, you always have somebody around that you can share some good news with. And that's fantastic. We love sharing wins. We love sharing positive things that happen. And there are people around to be like, wow, that's really fantastic. I'm super proud of you. Or I'm really excited that you did that, or that we accomplished that, or that we landed that client. When you're on your own, you may not necessarily have that. So here's what I do. Rather than setting up like a little virtual cheerleader set behind me where I press a button, instead of saying that was easy, it says, hey, you're amazing. I don't want to do that. So the first thing I do when I have a win is I send a text message to my guy. Part of that is that I want to share my joy with him. Now, he's at work, he's doing his thing, he's probably not going to see that text message for a couple of hours. Sometimes he doesn't even see it until well after he gets home, which is totally fine. But that's one way for me to share that joy. The other thing that you can do is post on social media. So if you have a win, let's say you just landed a really big client, or you finally booked your first consulting session. That's fantastic. Those are wins and they need to be celebrated. So feel free to post it on social media, post on Instagram, post on Facebook, whatever your social media channel of choice is. Celebrate that win and just say, hey guys, like I'm super pumped for this and I just want to share this with you. When you see somebody else posting that they had a win, you usually feel good about it. You're like, wow, I'm really excited for you. Good job. So it's okay to share that out. Now you want to be careful if you don't want to share obviously proprietary information, but definitely share the win. Share that joy. Let it go out there and create some happy ripples into the world. It's a fantastic thing to do. So when we're talking about doing it alone, and I've touched on this a little bit already, but this is what I find can happen when we're working alone. We move into the lonely, overwhelmed backslide. So what that means, what I see that meaning is you're working on something and you find yourself like you're really stuck in something. For whatever reason, there's something that's just happening in your day that is really, it's become a grind, or it's wearing down your positive energy, or you're just like, oh my goodness, all of those little voices start to creep in. So this is when you're hitting that lonely, overwhelmed backslide. You feel all alone, and very shortly you're going to start to feel overwhelmed by the amount of work. This is really important. You need to stop that backslide in its tracks. Get off of that slip and slide. That is not where you need to be. It is not a positive place, and its ending will be messy and will likely end up in a puddle of Kleenexes. So get out. Now, when that happens, if you're in your office, step out. Take 15 minutes, step out of your office. Don't go back in. Just say, you know what? Right now, I need to just move out of here. Head to another room. For me, I always book it into the kitchen, which is where all the snacks and all the water and everything is. But get out of your office. Take a 15-minute coffee break. On that coffee break, do something that brings you joy. For me, often I'll have a dance party. I will throw on my Spotify. I will pop on some fantastic dance music or a playlist that I've put together that's all feel good, upbeat music. And I will just bust a move in my kitchen for about 15 minutes. Now, I'm not a fantastic dancer, and if somebody were looking through my window, I would probably be a little bit embarrassed. But the truth is, I really don't care, because getting my body moving and doing something that is just fun and it's freeing, it moves my mind out of that lonely, overwhelmed, backslide headspace and basically just sort of punts it to the curb. It just says, you know what? You have no business being here. I'm on a mission. I got things to do, and I'm super pumped to do them. So take a coffee break. If a dance party isn't your thing, grab a snack, sit down and watch some Netflix for, again, 15 minutes. This is not like a full episode of Suits or something. This is like maybe an episode of Full House. We're talking 15, 20 minutes max. You don't want to sideline your entire day by getting sucked into some kind of a marathon. The other thing that you can do, reach out. If you have a friend that you just say, you know what, I need 10 minutes. I just need to talk about something. I just need to touch base with somebody. Reach out. And if you don't have time to do it over the phone, just send them a text message and say, I don't need advice. I just need to let this go. And I'm asking you to just hold some space for me to let it on out. Working alone can be a fantastic benefit in lots of ways, but it can also create some massive space to let the stories and the fears and the doubts come into your mind and run rampant. Now, if you haven't yet, I would suggest listen to the episode 2 where I talk about the 3 biggest factors that are holding you back in business and really can be holding you back in achieving what you want to in life. I talk a little bit about this, but when you're in that alone space, that's where all those little voices start to come in and they say, you know, maybe you don't know enough. Maybe you don't have enough experience. Maybe you should wait to do this. Maybe somebody else is doing it better. Maybe it's already out there. We don't need to listen to those stories because those stories are not serving you. They are not keeping you moving on a path that is going to bring that big, bold, beautiful, fantastic thing that you have to offer into the world. So if you haven't already, I want you to head on over to daretobegin.net/biggest factors. I have a free download for you there that talks about these 3 factors and gives you an action step on each one so that you can get out of that muck and get moving forward right away. It's really important that you don't mire in it. It's okay to feel down for a while, but you don't want to get stuck in the mud pit. You want to be able to move forward, and you don't necessarily have to bounce right on out of there, but you can just climb. You can crawl your way out. It's okay. You can take the time that you need to. Just get out of it. So, most importantly, I want to really make sure you hear me on this. I've just said it. I'm going to say it again. Working alone can give you the opportunity to dwell. Don't. Get out of that headspace. Take action to stay out of the mud pit so that you can keep moving forward. So again, head on over to daretobegin.net/biggest factors. Get your free download. Get working on those action steps and start moving forward. I am so excited for what you're bringing into the world, and I know that what you're bringing means something to somebody. And if you're ever feeling like, who am I to bring this out there? Let me remind you, there are nearly 8 billion beautiful souls on this planet, and I can absolutely guarantee you there is at least one person out there that needs what you're putting out. And more than likely, there's way more than that. But if you are letting yourself get sucked aside, if you're letting yourself go in that lonely, overwhelmed backslide, you're never going to bring it out. And what a shame that would be. I thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I welcome comments. If you're listening to this on the website, please comment below. I definitely want to hear about it. Touch base with me over on social media. At Instagram, I'm at I Dare to Begin. And you can find me on Facebook as well by Amy Van Meel. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. I love what you're doing. I'm excited for what you're bringing out into the world. And just keep going because you will get there. Thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of the day.